No more hiding in the dark. That is the subject before the House today. No more hiding in the dark. You ever feel like you're living your life in the dark, in your job, your relationships, the direction your life is going, and for the life of you, you can't figure out how to get out of it? That's exactly how the Israelites felt, totally in the dark. Handel paints such a picture with the shadowy and sonorous tones we have just heard today. For behold, darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. Isaiah's metaphor needs little explanation today. We understand about darkness. Darkness fills our newspapers, our novels, our movies, our plays. Dante's Divine Comedy begins with these words: midway through the journey of life, I woke, finding myself in a very dark wood because I had strayed from the straight path. And that's what the Israelites did. Think for a moment about Plato's allegory of the cave, where Plato demonstrates the progression of the unenlightened mind to the knowledge of the good. Plato pictures the whole human race buried in some dark cave, in some cavernous underground chamber, trying to figure out what's going on. They have been there from childhood. They cannot move. They can only look straight ahead. They cannot see the light that is behind them. They only see the shadows playing on the wall above them. The footnote in my copy of Plato's Republic compares a modern Plato to an underground cinema in this cave-like experience, where in that cinema the audience is watching the plays of the shadow on the wall. Woody Allen must have had this image in mind when he wrote and directed his movie The Purple Rose of Cairo, where the main female character, slugging it out in the Great Depression with her ne'er-do-well, out-of-work, abusive husband and her dead-end job in the local Greasy Spoon, searches desperately for an escape from this gray and drab life she is experiencing by burying herself in the dark of a local movie theater. And she becomes a modern example of Plato's allegory of the cave. She becomes a modern example of the words that were sung by the soloist this morning. For behold, darkness covers the earth, and gross darkness the people. Here we are, hiding in the dark. What are we hiding from? And what are we waiting for? We're all here waiting in the dark, but what are you waiting for? A clear purpose for your life? Because you want to know where you're going next? I remember when I was a teenager, which is one of the levels in Dante's Inferno, by the way, either for you or your parents. I remember when I was a teenager waiting, thinking it would never come, waiting for my independence, my own rules, my own life, my own freedom to do whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. And then I grew up and found out that independence is really scary. What are you waiting for these days? Healing, your own healing, the healing of a loved one who's been in an accident or is going through some terrible illness, healing from the grief you're experiencing, healing from the inability to forgive another and reconcile with others who are different. What is it you're waiting for in the dark? Love? Enough self-respect that you don't have to be plagued anymore by insecurity and the need to prove yourself to everyone all the time? What are you waiting for? Peace and justice in our world where there seems to be little of either, where the wolf will lie down with the lamb, which is a far-fetched idea in itself. I love what Woody Allen says about that line in Scripture. Have you ever noticed? He says, "The wolf may lie down with the lamb, but the lamb won't get much sleep." What are you waiting for these days? Here we all are waiting in the dark. And then suddenly something happens, an encounter, something that is painful, that causes us to be more honest with ourselves than we have ever been before. Rowan Williams calls it a ray of darkness, which is an oxymoron, as paradoxical as killing them with kindness. What is this ray of darkness? It is that moment, it is that time when we experience something harrowing and difficult, and we know and we say, "Oh, in that moment I experienced the presence of the living God." It creates a kind of spiritual vertigo, this ray of darkness. No wonder Paul talks about it in 1 Corinthians 13. "For now we see only in a glass, darkly." Handel's aria demonstrates the dilemma. The musical lines are painful. They grope hesitantly, reaching out in the dark for something solid to hold on to. The angular lines of the arpeggios and the chords reflect the disorientation and confusion we feel when we have to appropriate a new idea, like the medieval theologians who couldn't stand the idea of the new theologians who wanted to open the church to scientific discovery. The old theologians believed that God was only concerned about matters of revelation. But no, said the new theologians, God is concerned with all the physical laws of nature. And so Descartes and Galileo and Kepler and Newton were convinced that the mathematical truths of our world were not the products of the human mind, but of the divine. And the ray of darkness broke through and caused a kind of dissonance. It's hard when we have to appropriate a new idea, when we have to come out of the dark of ignorance to a new idea. And Plato warned us about that, warned us about trying to appropriate the light too quickly, like the gradual rising of the early light in the morning, as if someone is working some divine dimmer switch. When we move from the dark of ignorance and pain and oppression into the light, we need to take it gradually, but suddenly the light does come to us, as Handel helps us see, as Isaiah helps us understand. The people who've walked in darkness have seen a great light, and suddenly that light comes to us like the rays, those first rays peeking over the edge, which cause a kind of temporary blindness because it catches us off guard, and we just don't know how to take it. We don't know what to do with it. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and he shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. And all of a sudden we realize we have won the lottery. We found the love of our life. We've gotten all our questions answered, all our fears relieved. God reaches out with this light to you and me and grabs us and will never let us go. So in Woody Allen's movie, the female character goes to that same dark theater day after day, and then one day she is stunned, she is surprised, because a character on the screen looks out and breaks the fourth wall and speaks to her directly. He said, "I've seen you come to this movie 5 times in a row, and I want to talk to you." And then he steps off the screen right out into the theater, as if I were to come out of this pulpit and walk right down here to one of you. And he takes her hand and he leads her out into the blinding light. Such was the encounter for Israel. Such is the encounter for you and me as we appropriate this light, which is more incredible than anything we have ever seen. And yet it's hard because some of us want to continue to wallow in the dark of our own revenge, our own lack of the ability to forgive, our own lack of ability to reconcile ourselves with others. And yet God comes upon us with this light in overwhelming ways. Such is the music that we hear when the soloist sings, "For the people who have walked in darkness have seen a great light." It's hard to take, and yet it is powerful. Paul Hansen is right. This is not some dreamy utopianism. No, Isaiah's words in his time provided courage and hope and freedom for the people who had been buried in darkness for so long. And it was an incredible word, a word they had never heard before about the light of God coming upon them. "I know that my Redeemer liveth," cried Job. And in a similar example of holy defiance, the Christians in the catacomb prayed before they were hauled off to the Colosseum for slaughter. Black slaves in antebellum America sang of Elijah's swinging low, sweet chariot all the way to freedom, and the Jews in Dachau and Auschwitz painted butterflies on the walls as they continued to worship their God and believe in their God in the face of the Holocaust. Such is the power of this message of hope and light and peace. "For unto us a child is born, for unto us a son is given, and he shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace." Such is the message of peace and hope that reaches out and grabs you and me on this very day. This message of peace and hope and light in which we live and move and have our being from this day forth and forevermore. God bless you all.